So this is the 1906 film, The Story of the Kelly Gang. It was the first feature film, but most is lost, 1906. Yep, exactly. So let's get into this. I'll just start reading this out loud. The 1906 film, The Story of the Kelly Gang, is believed to have been 1 hour in length. Only fragments are known to survive, around 971 feet. You're watching like a movie in theaters, I believe, and it's like on film. I believe 2,000 feet is typically considered to be about 10 minutes of footage. So according to this, there's like 5 minutes of footage. That doesn't seem right. Oh, but they're playing it at 18 frames a second, so that'll make it longer. Oh, which totals almost 15 minutes of screen time when projected at 18 frames a second. This study version aims at reconstructing the film's narrative based upon the best evidence provided by the original footage and intertitles. Combined with additional titles and other associated materials, postcards, the poster, the original program booklet, a more complete sense of structure of the original production is created. Also included are 2 brief animated segments recreated from short film strips reproduced in an article from Lone Hand. The original titles are shown as they are in the film. Reconstructed titles are based on text from the original program booklet, Melbourne 1906, and appear in normal text. Additional narrative titles have been created where no intertitles exist. They appear in italics to clearly distinguish them. All reconstructed and narrative titles are noted by NFSA 2006. An optional curatorial commentary is included. Movie begins. The film opens at the Kelly homestead where Ned's mother is at home. Kate Kelly, Ned's sister, overhears Trooper discussing the warrant for her brother Dan's arrest. Kate arrives home with the news that troopers are planning to arrest Dan. So this is all stuff that we are meant to be imagining in our minds because it's not actually, because it doesn't actually survive. Shortly afterwards, Constable Fitzpatrick arrives at the homestead looking for Dan. Mrs. Kelly tries to deter him, but he treats her roughly and Kate comes to the rescue. Footage! Man, 1906. Actually pretty impressed that it looks as good as it does. Like the Kelly gang beating up a soldier, running away. Kate holds Fitzpatrick at bay with a loaded gun while the gang escapes. Little Kate. You can always count on people named Kate, like from Lost. That's a great shot, actually. Goes to show you that they were still kind of stuck in the stage sort of tableau of very early cinema, that they wouldn't even think to like move the camera closer or reposition it. Oh, and just as I say that, they do exactly that thing. Cutting in. In the Wombat Ranges, the gang discuss what they will do next. Just some guys in a gang doing some chatting. At the police camp in the Wombat Ranges, Constables Kennedy and Scallon have already left in search of a new campsite. Ooh, cops are out. Bade editing there? Bade or Bad? Or Blade? Constables McIntyre and Lonergan remain behind and shoot parrots for amusement. Cops, man. Their shots alert the Kelly gang, who come to see what all of the noise is about. Imagine the cops getting found out because like they couldn't just not try to kill a defenseless bird. Bad cop, no donut. Police are quickly surrounded by the gang. Up with your hands, or we fire. Dun dun dun. Lonergan is shot and the gang take McIntyre prisoner. Oh good, so the guy who was abusing animals got killed? Mind McIntyre, if you run, I'll drive a bullet through you. Dun dun dun. Lot of death. See, this isn't actually the what survived. This is just the edited version because they couldn't handle all of this death way back then. Even though film censors didn't really exist until like the 1930s. Hays Code, baby. Woo! That's not true. There were censors in film before this. That guy's moving quite a bit. He probably should have been shot. The gang enjoy afternoon tea when Steve Hart rushes back and the news that Kennedy and Scallon are returning. Ned Kelly tells McIntyre that Lonergan was shot in self-defense. You don't need to lie. You don't need to lie about it, Ned. Have a bit of a backbone. Also, I just love the idea of the gang like holding someone hostage and just having afternoon tea. Well, so much for that plan. Just a lot more death happening. Why is he shooting the ground? The gang are declared outlaws after shooting Constable Fitzpatrick. The government offers a reward of $8,000 for their capture. I'm not sure what that would have been like. Oh, this is a still frame from that. I guess this is how they find out that they're worth $8,000 in reward money. So this is one of the very first feature-length films, but we only have fragments of it, so we're just checking out all of the different fragments. And now they're gonna stick up Young Husband's station. I don't know if they would have been props or not. It might have been real guns firing blanks. I would like to think they were smart enough to not have real guns. Ooh, Stick 'em up. You're coming with us. The only men are robbed of their valuables by Ned Kelly. Only the men. We do not rob ladies or children. Aw, look at these outlaws being good outlaws. One thing that's kind of robbed from this is that we don't really know how often the inner titles are jumping in relation to the rest of the footage. That's something I kind of find interesting about films from the early 1900s is like the degree to which inner titles aren't really used that much, and it's only when narrative film becomes more of a focus in the 1910s and 20s that we start to see inner titles used more and more and more. And so like early on, there really was a focus in making sure that you could tell a story visually as opposed to having to explain it, which is what I kind of like about some of these like really old films. Arrival of Sandy Gloucester, the hawker with his van. Van? Guy's driving up with a Dodge Caravan? Probably not. Henry Ford just gave me this brand new van. Just kidding, it's a carriage. I'm also just finding it so strange that there's like no music underneath this, but I guess they didn't want, they didn't know exactly what music went along with it. Maybe that didn't survive. Weren't cars electric back then? Maybe it's a Tesla? Yeah, it's an electric horse. It's not a real horse, it's an animatronic horse that's pulling that buggy. Sandy Gloucester is compelled to bail up very much against his will, but finally does so. I also wonder, David, going back to your point about the Great Train Robbery being like better shot, quote unquote, if part of that has to do with the length of this film, right? Like the fact that they were making a 60-minute film for maybe the first time ever, they may have decided to be more economical or less inventive with the type of shooting because they may not have been familiar with like coordinating or planning a film that long, so they just tried to keep things as simple as possible. You know, eliminate complications like multiple setups or like going wild with it. I'm trying to be like very charitable, probably unnecessarily, but something to think about. Haha, some new togs, boys, at last. A box of cigars, good enough. What the hell is a tog? I think this was pre-Model T, as yeah, you have to look that up. It's all good. And I imagine like the story that they're showing with the Kelly Gang actually like is far before 1906. This is something from the past, although maybe the Kelly Gang was around at this time period. I don't really know for sure. Get behind the house, Dan and Steve. Here comes a trap with 4 men in it. And like, yeah, also just going back to like talking about the economics of shooting this, like this camera has not moved in a solid 5 minutes. We're really just like moving it a little bit, like panning it a bit to the right. Yeah, like there's just simple pans going on here. The 4 sportsmen are immediately made prisoners with the others. Uh-oh. Hey, everyone's having a good time and drinking this beer. Mr. Macaulay, the station manager, is compelled to dismount at gunpoint. Yeah, I'd be compelled to do that too. They just did not move this camera. Change the setup. Make it modern. Disguised in the borrowed clothes, Ned Kelly and the gang depart to stick up a bank at Euroa. We're gonna get a different camera setup now? Nope. Joe Bryan remains on guard at Younghusband's station. Andrew Younghusband is the host of Canada's Worst Driver. Arriving at the bank, the gang discover it's closing for the day. Feigning to be a customer, Ned Kelly prevails on the staff to open the door as he wants to deposit some money. This would be a new camera position. We just have to imagine it in our minds. Inside, the gang hold up the bank, but the manager refuses to hand over the keys to the vault. Threatened with death, the bank manager complies. Woof. Gang's getting serious. Oh, what is this? That looks like multiple camera exposures, like from a stills camera. The gang sees a large quantity of gold and notes. Their prisoners are forced into the hawker's van and taken back to Younghusband. I think I know how the gang is going to be defeated at the end of this. Eventually, all the people they're taking hostage are just going to be like, there's way more of us. And here we get images from inside the bank being robbed. It seems like most of the footage that was saved was actually from outside of that like gang headquarters thing. Or Younghusband's, I guess. Ned gives Steve Hart a bag of money, and he rides off with it. Kate is chased by troopers as she sets off to spread the news that police reinforcements are on the way. The cops are coming. The cops are coming. That's awesome. Just looking at like the glow coming off the horse. It's like some kind of ethereal Avenger. The reinforcements include trackers from Queensland to hunt down the gang hiding in the Strathbogie Ranges. Is this an Australian film? Because it is like Australia's national film archive doing it. Miss Skilkin, Kate's sister, leads the police on a wild goose chase to put them off the trail. She's carrying a package of supplies for the gang. Meanwhile, Mrs. Bryan overhears Aaron Sherritt betraying the gang to the police. She informs Kate and Mrs. Skrellin, who decide they must warn Ned. Heading out to find their brother and advise him of Sherritt's treachery, the women are chased by a trooper whom they lose when they cross a creek. Those look so cool. I really love that. That sort of like animated, really grainy image. That's awesome. She looks pretty happy. Looks like she's having a good time. Having received the message about Sherritt, Joe and Dan capture Farmer Wicks. They trick Sherritt by forcing Wicks to call out that he is lost. Treachery. More treachery. Pew pew, pew pew pew. I'll do the sound effects. I'll do the sound effects now. Pew pew pew. Inside the hut, Sherritt is talking with the police who rush into the bedroom when they hear Wicks's voice. Sherritt goes to the door when Joe Bryan, his old schoolfellow, steps into the doorway and shoots him dead. He's dead. A lot of pronoun stuff happening there. Death to all traitors. I'm guessing Sherritt is the one that got killed though. Man, look at the amount of headroom these guys get. This might just be from like a photo of an image that survives, or maybe there was just one frame that survived that they're putting in here. A lot of headroom though. Modern cinema, you could just tell they would cut that off like just above the door. But also they were shooting in full frame, so maybe they couldn't cut it off. At the sound of the shots, two of the police hide under the bed. In a further act of cowardice, Mrs. Sherritt is used as a hostage by the others. The gang raid the police station at Giraldi. They lock up Constables Devine and Richards. There are so many characters in this film. The gang put on police uniforms. They force one of the policemen to introduce them to residents as they parade up and down the street. Dan Kelly climbs on a telegraph pole to cut the wires, preventing all communication. Oh, that's dangerous. Don't touch those lines. I mean, it's probably telegraph lines that aren't going to kill you, but it still could kill you. Dude's just fully taking a hatchet? Good lord. The Kelly gang carry out their plan to derail the train, bringing the police reinforcements. They capture the plate layers, whom they force at gunpoint to tear up the rails. Once the rails are torn up, the gang take the plate layers to the nearby Glenrowan Hotel. News of the impending disaster spreads amongst the patrons. You know, I was kind of cheering for the gang up until now, but seems like a shitty thing to do. Just derail a train. Some more shooting. Some more pew-pewing, as it were. Inside the hotel, Curnow, the schoolmaster, tries to win over the gang by revealing that the station master, Mr. Stanistreet, has a gun. The station master puts up a fight, but the gang take the gun from him. Oof, filling up that inventory. Yeah, I can see why he would give up his gun, considering the odds at play here. We all like to think we're the tough guy, but then there's a whole gang of like 7 people with guns on us. Maybe not. During the argument, Curnow gets away. He heads to the railway in the dark of night. Proceeding along the track, he risks his life to successfully stop the train. Ned and the gang are unaware that the train is saved, and they continue to revel. Ned, standing up on Beryl, gives a toast and is surprised when the shots are fired into the hotel. There must be a lot of remaining footage on the back end of this, because I feel like we're nowhere close to like 15 minutes of actual footage seen. The gang spring into action, and in the ensuing battle, the son of Mr. Jones, the hotel's owner, is killed by a stray bullet. Aw. This must have been quite a job to reconstruct into something resembling coherent footage. Yeah. I mean, they mentioned in the beginning, but there's a lot of research that went into this. Ooh, look at that damage. Ugh. You can't repair that. I know it's terrible to say, but I do kind of love how it looks. There is a documentary, an orphan film documentary that was made using only footage that has been degraded to this extent, and it's depressingly beautiful because you understand the images you're seeing are lost to time, but it also has created like this new different kind of beautiful thing. Can't remember the name of it though. Death of Joe. Hey, an original intertitle. God dang. Gosh dang. There'll be no fucking profanity on this channel. The police surround the building and shoot into it. The gang return fire from the hotel's veranda. There was some controversy with this film due to romanticism of Ned Kelly when people who loved it, who lived during it were still alive. Oh, wild. Look at these cops, look at these soldiers getting in there. But Ned Kelly is just an Australian folk hero, so the story is mixed. Assessing the situation, the police decide to drive out the gang by setting fire to the hotel. Man, these police don't fuck around. This is the kind of shit that they were doing to black people in the United States during the Civil Rights Movement. Father Gibney implores the police to stop as there are women and children inside. The police attempt to prevent him from entering the building. Cops having to be told not to kill women and children. Not much has changed. They're just like straight up firing past this guy. The brave priest to the rescue. I kind of find it interesting when films like this, they have like two like figures of authority, in this case the police and the priest. The police are shown as being like either cowardly or overreacting, but then in the case of the priest, he's shown as being like the brave one. Steve and Dan shoot each other. Or it gives you an idea of what perhaps the intended goals of this depiction were for that time period. Wouldn't be surprised if you were to go back to like newspapers in Australia in 1906 and or 1905, 1906, and you see some stuff about how the police are not well regarded. Rescued by Father Gibney of the wounded Plate Slayer. Plates Layer, not Plate Slayer. Slayer! Also, I think just to take a note on the red in this, I imagine that this particular reel of film was from a piece of color stock, and red is the most stable of the colors that is in like a tri-color, 3-color process strip of film, which is why redshift is such a prominent thing with older color films. So I don't think that was tinted footage. I think it was likely footage that was saved from a piece of color stock. During the night, Ned Kelly makes his escape, heavily weighted. Ned Kelly's last stand and capture. Oh my goodness. Will he defeat the cowardly police? Let's find out. You can't just say Slayer, you have to scream it. What is Ned Kelly wearing right now? Ned is seen approaching from the bush. The troopers fire shot after shot at the tall, silent figure. The bullets have no effect except to stagger him. This is actually kind of similar to what happens in one part of Tombstone when Kurt Russell's character like crosses the river and shoots people. It's like bullets never touch him and he just like kills a whole bunch of people. It's like a mythology type moment. Kind of love that he's wearing a bucket on his head. Kelly cannot take straight aim, his left hand being wounded. However, the police find his vulnerable spot, firing into his legs, finally bringing him down. Kelly keeps on shooting, fighting hard for his life. Rain in blood, baby. Uh-oh, we got another Slayer fan in here. Oh, they found my only weakness. My legs. My only regret is that I had bonitis. Sometimes you just have to reference Futurama, and I don't know why. Oh, they're taking him alive? I would not have expected that. And now I've just got like the last 2 minutes of Raining Blood stuck in my head. I listened to Die by the Sword earlier. Sick song. He begs the troopers to spare his life. I don't know, Ned. You killed a lot of people. So the police are cowardly and they have no problem killing children, but they're ultimately victorious. Thus falls the last of the Kelly gang, and with the fall of Ned Kelly, the last of the Bush Rangers. And that's it. That is the entire story of the Kelly gang.